Alright folks, so in this video what we will do is we will go back to our favorite agent builder tool, that is langgraph. And langgraph kind of released their new library, which is nothing but langgraph-supervisor, which kind of helps you to build a multi-agent system or a hierarchical agent system in a very simplified way. So I just wanted to take you through how this langgraph-supervisor works in this notebook. So without further delay, let's get started. So at first what we will do is we will do the installation of this newly released library, which is nothing but langgraph-supervisor. So once the installation is done, then we need to initialize the credentials. So we need the OpenAI API key and the Tavilai API key. So once that is done, then we need to do the LLM initialization. So here in this example, I tried with GPT-4o mini, but as we are building a very complex agent, which is also a kind of hierarchical in nature, so I saw that GPT-4o mini was not working well. So I switched back to GPT-4o, and based on that, I got the desired output, right? So then what we will do is we will create few of the tools. So one of the tool is Tavilai tool, which is nothing but a web search tool. And we will also use the Python REPL tool, which will help us to do the visualization and run Python code in the interpreter, right? So once that is done, then we can start building the multi-agent workflows with langgraph supervisor. So we'll import this create react agent from langgraph, and using this create react agent we will build the react agent, and that we will plug into the supervisor, right? So at first what we'll do is we will build a web search function. So this web search function will accept a query, and based on the query it will use the Tavilai tool to get the results. Then we will do some string manipulation, and that will be sent back from this function, right? So once this function is created, then we will use this create react agent. So there we need to pass the LLM, then the tools that we will use. So you can use multiple tool, or you can use a single tool, which we are using here, that is web search. And then we can give a name to this, and this prompt is very crucial, right? So this is, in a way, you are telling LLM what this react agent will do, right? So we are mentioning that you are a world-class researcher with access to web search, right? So we are mentioning that using this tool you can do a web search, and based on that you can gather the information. After that, what we will use is the visualization agent. So in this visualization agent we will use the Python REPL tool, and we will also mention the prompt that you are a visualization expert, create visualization using Python code, always use one tool at a time, right? So these prompts are very crucial. If you do not give a clear instruction, then the LLM might get confused and the React agent will not work properly, right? Once that is done, then we can start creating the supervisor workflow. So we leverage this newly released langgraph supervisor library, and we will import the create supervisor from this library, right? So once that is imported, there you need to pass what are the sub agents or what are the multi agents that you want to plug into this supervisor, right? So research agent is one of them, and the visualization agent is the other one, right? So we mention this prompt also, right, which is also very critical. So you can see the prompt I have written in such a way that it tells you like what this supervisor is supposed to do, right? So you are a team supervisor managing a research expert and a visualization expert. For current events and information, use research agent, and for creating beautiful visualization, use the visualization agent, right? So we have clearly defined what are the sub agents the supervisor has and how it should do the handoff during the execution of the work between the sub agents, right? So once that is done, then we need to compile this workflow and create an app out of it, and then you can also do the visualization how this graph looks like, right? This is very similar to what we used to previously create using langgraph, just that the process got simpler with this, right? So we have a supervisor, then we have the visualization expert and the research expert, and then you can start firing a query, right? So I've given a query that fetch the India's GDP over the last 5 years and then draw a line graph of it, right? So you can see it has created this line graph. Now if you want to go deep how this process worked, so you can go through the result and the messages, and you can do a pretty print. So you can see that at first the control has been transferred to the research expert, and the research expert kind of goes to the internet and tries to bring the data that it needs to have to answer this question. Then it transfers the request back to the supervisor, and once the supervisor gets back the request, then it understand that it needs to call the visualization expert, or it needs to do a handoff to the visualization expert. So it will successfully transfer the control to the visualization expert. Then the visualization expert will do its work, and finally the control will be sent back to the supervisor, which will generate a message and also the visualization. Right now let's make it a bit more complex, where we will build a hierarchical multi-agent system. So what we will do is we will create something like this, where we will have a supervisor. Then the supervisor will have two teams at its disposal. One of them is a search team and the other one is a publishing team. The search team comprises of two agents. So one of them is a RAG agent, which can go to the vector DB and find out very domain specific data from the vector DB, and then it also has access to web, so you can use the web search agent to do the retrieval from the web if the queries are not present in the RAG vector DB, right? So then it also has a publishing team. So this publishing team comprises of two agents. So one of them is a reviewing agent. So this reviewing agent will get the content from the search team, then it will make the necessary changes to make it more optimal for the publishing process. Once the reviewing agent does its work, then the control will be passed to the writing agent. So the writing agent will write the content that has been reviewed by the reviewing agent, and it will dump in a txt file, right? So you can see that we have created a full research agent with this hierarchical agent structure, right? So let's go into each of these components and see how this is working. This is where we are creating the RAG agent. So what we will do is we will create the vector DB, and there we will use the documents from Hugging Face which are related to transformer, and that we will push to the vector DB. So once that is done, then we will create this function which is RAG search. There we will kind of do the retrieval using k equals to 4, and then we will do some string manipulation, and that content will be sent back from this Python function. Right. So once this Python function or tool is created, then we will use this create React agent, and we will create a RAG agent, right, where we will mention that the tool is nothing but RAG search, and we will also mention the prompt, right, which is nothing but you are a RAG tool with access to transformer related documents, right? Then what we will do is we will create a search team. So if you remember, we previously created this research agent. So this research agent is nothing but it will use the tabuli to do the web search, and we will also incorporate the RAG agent, right? So this research team comprises of two agents, the research agent and the RAG agent, and we are giving the clear instructions in the prompt, right? So like for current events and information, use research agent, and for transformer related information, use the RAG agent, right? We are compiling this search team, and we are creating this search team, right? So you can see we are using this create supervisor also, but we are creating the first component of this hierarchical structure, right? Then what we will do is we will create two other agents. So one of them is the reviewing content, so where we have written a prompt, and we have written a prompt which is nothing but like review the given content, make necessary corrections, and rewrite in a positive tone. Once that is done, then we will create this reviewing agent where we are mentioning this reviewing content as a tool, and then we are mentioning what is the prompt, right? So you are a world-class reviewing expert, don't use this tool to write the final output, right? So I saw that sometime it was using this tool to generate the writing content or dumping to a txt file. So that's why I've written this prompt and clearly mentioned that don't use this tool to write the final output, right? Only use this to review the content that has been sent to you, right? So once that is done, then we will create this writer function which will get the text that it needs to dump. Then it will create a txt file and it will dump the content to this txt file, right? So which we can use it for the later purposes, right? So then we will create this React agent, which is nothing but writing agent, where we are mentioning the writer as one of the tool, and we are mentioning that the prompt is like your job is to write the final content in a txt file, right? So once that is done, then we will club these two agents and we will create this publishing team. So in the publishing team, we are also mentioning like what are the agents that we will use, the reviewing agent and the writing agent, and then we are mentioning the clear prompt, right? So for making corrections in the content, use reviewing agent, and for writing the final content in a txt file, use the writing agent, right? So in that way we are creating this publishing team, and then we are compiling it, and finally we are creating the top level supervisor, right? So we will use the same create supervisor, but instead of using the base tools, here we are using the other agents that we have created earlier, right? The research team and the publishing team, right? And then we are clearly giving instructions in the prompt like how it should select its hierarchical agents and it should execute the task, right? So then there is this important concept which is part of this library, which is like output mode, where whenever the control is sent back from the supervisor to the sub agents, that time you can send the full history to the sub agents, or the when the control is sent back from the sub agent to the supervisor, there also you can send the full history, or you can use the last message, right? So because we are building a very complex hierarchical agent, so that's why I have used this full history instead of last message. But you can also try out with this last message, which will kind of reduce the token consumption and the cost of executing this hierarchical agent. We can fire a query, right? Like tell me the role of QKV matrices in transformer architecture, review the content, and then write into a txt file, right? So this is the prompt which the user is sending. Then we can see how this handoff between the sub agents and the supervisor will work in this hierarchical architecture. So you can see at first it's getting the question, then the supervisor decides that at first it needs to go to the search team, then it goes to the search team, then the search team kind of uses the RAG to get the vector DB related informations which are related to transformer. So using the RAG expert, it gets this information, and then that is transferred to the supervisor. Then the supervisor kind of decides that now it can send the control to the publishing team. So the publishing team, at first it will go to the reviewing expert, where the reviewing expert will review the content and it will make the necessary changes, and it will change the tone to a positive tone. The supervisor will decide now I need to transfer the control to the writing expert, and the writing expert will come into the picture, and writing expert will do its job and it will dump the file, right? So if I go to this folder, we can see it has dumped this file, which is nothing but final txt. So if I just download this, and then we would be able to see what is the content of this file, right? So you can see this is the content that has been generated by this hierarchical agent, and it created this content using the final writing expert, right? So at first it goes to the RAG, then it will get the content from the vector DB, then it goes to the reviewing agent, it does the necessary modifications and change the tone of the content to a positive tone, then it goes to the writing expert, and then it finally dumps into a .txt file with this content, right? So I hope you got an understanding of how this hierarchical agent works and how you can build very complex looking hierarchical structure with this newly released langgraph supervisor, right? So with this I will end this video. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.